Good morning, everybody. My name is Silvana Masella. I'm the CEO of Trust IT and the coordinator of the Stand ICT 2023 and Stand ICT 2026 CSA project funded by the Horizon Europe program of the European Commission. So we will wait just a second to allow our participants to come in, and then we'll get ready to start our second episode of our Women in ICT Standards webinar, where we are so pleased to have some esteemed women on this panel for the next hour and a half that focuses on the gender gap in ICT standardization and standards specifically. Okay, I think then we should start. Stand ICT, as I said, is a CSA project. There is my company and our affiliate company, Compla, supported by some great partners. DCU, Dublin City University, looks after the YOS and the technical working groups. Then we have Open Forum Europe, that considers policy and open standards. Then we have the European Digital SME Alliance, clearly with the focus around SMEs. Ostralo, that looks at synergies and our fellows. And we have Fraunhofer that focuses on our Standards Academy. So with that, let's now move on to who is here with us today. And so I've introduced myself, then I'm pleased to say we have Raquel Fernandez Jada, excuse my pronunciation, who is a research program manager at VEA, the European Commission, and is also the project officer for HS Booster. We have Maitan, I'm going to skip the surnames, I think, yeah, because I'm only going to ruin them. Maitan is the Secretary General at SBS and also a partner of HS, of the Stand for EU project. Viveka, an advocate and ISO project editor. Ivana, full professor at University of Belgrade, our Stand ICT chair and a partner of HS Booster. Judith, a cybersecurity specialist at ABB. Olga Meyer, who is a group lead at Fraunhofer and a partner of the Stand for EU project. And finally, Emilia Tanta, Chief Data and AI Officer at Black Swan, and a fellow at Stand ICT, as is also Viveka. We're proud to have this webinar in collaboration with the other two projects I've just mentioned, Stand for EU and HS Booster, very strongly related to standardization. And this is something we'd like to pursue in the future to make sure we introduce that these efforts are clustered together and we can give visibility on the efforts going on in each of these projects. And it's wonderful that we've managed to find fantastic women who are actively involved in all of these three projects. So moving on, our second webinar episode wants to raise awareness of women engaged in ICT standardization. If you want to write anything, then please use the Women in ICT Standards, okay, in any of your comments. And what I want to do is encourage you online to please write in the chat, tell us who you are. If you want to share a standardization experience with us in the chat, we'd love to read it and we'll make sure we collect this and then get back to you after the webinar. If you'd like to pose questions to our panelists, please use the Q&A feature and our panelists will be actively looking at that and responding to the questions there. You see here the descriptions of the three projects. Please do go and visit the websites if you want to find out more about them, and your interfaces will be pleased to give you information on how you can get involved on these projects. First, from a Stand ICT point of view, we talked about fellows. What does that mean? There are open calls, 9 under Stand ICT 2023, where nearly €3 million was given out to European ICT standards experts to contribute to either technical committees or working groups in every single global SDO working on ICT standards. And in front of you, you can see here some statistics in terms of which were the most common topics. What we see, there's about 17% of almost 8 million ICT specialists who are women, and the growth forecast is expected to grow. But how is it going to grow? We're not just going to wake up one morning and say, right, I've managed to grow by 8%. So from a personal perspective, and being a mother of 2 teenage girls, I'm convinced that if we start a massive brand awareness strategy via our Snapchats and Instagrams and TikToks through young influencers, and they don't just need to be women, who are attracting and stimulating women and girls at a very, very young age. I'm talking elementary school, okay? And I think a campaign should come out from all governments in the whole of Europe and around the world, doing something with girls at the very early age from 5 to 10, showing them what benefits there are and some cool things that you can do in ICT to help respond to this gap due to the digital technologies that we're faced with today, and how working in this area can be extremely nice and interesting. So this is what really should change in the coming months. If we move on, we did a further analysis of our open calls from 1 to 9, and here are just the women we pulled out from our fellows. So Viveka and Emilia online, hi Emilia, glad you're with us, are part of this category here. You can see which are the topics that women have responded to in our open calls. Look at the most common ones. We've got blockchain DLT, we have AI, and we have cybersecurity. And interestingly, we have semantic interoperability. And I know a few women actually who lead some fantastic SMEs in Europe that deal specifically around ontologies, okay, and the semantic interoperability issues. From the organization type, what's lovely as a fellow SME is that 48% of the females who applied to the calls are from SMEs. So this is absolutely fantastic and extremely important that there's a strong constituency of female SMEs applying to the calls. Now, I've gone through the housekeeping already. I did not say that the event will be recorded. So obviously, if any of you have a problem that we are recording this, I'm afraid you are going to have to leave. We will make sure that all presentations are available within the next 24 hours on each of the websites that are hosting this webinar. And as I said, we'd love you to have news about you, who you are, clearly from participants. Write in the chat. We'll gather this information and get back to you on a one-on-one. And then do follow the chat. And if we have information, then we'll post that in. Okay, so without further ado, just quickly to finalize, we do have our open call that's going to close next week. So if you do want to get an application in to get some money to support your efforts on ICT standardization, specifically for Stan ICT, then apply today, and we hope you will be successful. There are the technical working groups I mentioned before. These are the ones that are coming in around the corner. If some of you are interested in taking part in these, then do please contact us. We have one on Cityverse at the moment too. So if you are working on that, then contact us after the webinar. These are some of the landscape analysis reports that are out with some very impressive views and downloads from Zenodo. And the 2 new ones have been published around DPP and ontologies. So do please access those and take a look. And they are commended by many people, and it gives you a bird's eye view on the latest ICT standards in these areas, where we rely on all of our experts for support on here. More information around 2026 is here. And with that, I'm going to pass the floor now to Raquel. Thank you very much all, and let's enjoy this webinar. Raquel, the floor to you. Thank you.
Many thanks, Silvana, for this kind introduction, and good morning to my counterparts today in this session, both speakers and attendees, many of them being women that are leading and contributing to ICT standards initiatives, and also others with the potential and willingness for it. The today topic, gender equality in ICT and standards, is not only a sociological aspect per se, but it has strong implications in the level of excellence in research and innovation, with economic and competitiveness impact indicators for the European Union. It is indeed widely recognized that women are underrepresented in ICT standardization-related fields across many countries, including Europe. Currently, only around 17% of the almost 8 million ICT specialists in Europe are women. This underrepresentation extends to ICT standardization activities as well. And this, despite the high and increasing levels of academic and professional performance of women. There is already a common understanding, the detrimental, based on a number of comprehensive analysis, that the limited participation of women is detrimental for individual ICT companies, the sector, and the wider economy. The key question is whether the low participation of women in the ICT sector is the result of individual preferences or of systemic obstacles. The European Institute for Gender Equality conducted a thorough study on this, and it found that it is in fact harmful stereotypes and a lack of digital confidence on the part of women that are the greatest barriers to gender equality in ICT. The European Union is not only conducting diagnosis of the situation, but also orchestrating a set of parallel corrective measures. It has designated a Commissioner for Equality and a specific European strategy defined for the period 2020 to 25. The Union implements policies and initiatives to promote gender diversity and inclusion aimed to increase women participation in ICT standardization. For example, it encouraged gender balanced representation in standardization bodies and committees. It emphasized the importance of diverse perspective and expertise in shaping technical standards. Efforts are made to ensure that women are represented and actively engaged in standardization processes. This policy is clearly reflected on the ETSI and Sensenelec institutional statements. Also, the European Commission promotes the development and implementation of gender equality plans, also called GEPs, in research and in public institutions, including those involved in ICT standardization. GEPs are designed to identify and address gender inequalities, promote equal opportunities, and create a more inclusive environment for women in research and innovation. The existence and implementation of these plans have become an eligibility criterion to apply for EU funding in Horizon Europe. Also, the Union support initiatives aim at raising awareness about the importance of women participation in ICT standardization and provides training opportunities. These include organizing workshops such as the one today funded by the STAN ICT EU grant, seminars, and very important, capacity building programs to enhance women knowledge and skills in standardization processes, like through the Horizon Standardization Booster Academy funded by the Union. After over 1 year of the Booster project implementation, more than 40% of the researchers and innovators applying for and receiving standardization support services are women. And the Booster is also aiming to increase the participation of women in their standardization expert network, that currently is only about 23%. The call for expression of interest is opened, and I encourage all women with expertise in both ICT and standardization to respond to it and participate actively, supporting to the EU community of researchers, mainly to valorize the research results via the revision or creation of new standards. Ivana, being the responsible for the Horizon Standardization Booster Academy, is today with us and is, as you may see also, led by women, which is also very encouraging. The union encourages networking and mentoring programs that connect women professionals in ICT with experienced mentors and provide opportunities for knowledge sharing, skills development, and career advancement. These programs help create a supportive ecosystem for women in ICT standardization. So the European Commission also provides funding and support research projects that focus on promoting gender diversity and equality in ICT standardization. This funding helps drive innovative approaches and initiatives to increase women participation and address gender imbalance, especially through the SWAF program in Horizon 2020 and the European Research Area program, both managed by the Unit C4, reforming and enhancing the European R&I system that I represent in the European Research Executive Agency. These projects and the participants, together with the results achieved, are available via the Cordis website, among others. And every year we launch new calls for proposals, so I invite you also to participate on them as applicants. And it is worth mentioning that the EU collaborates with various stakeholders, including standardization organizations like ETSI, Sensenelec, industry associations, research institutions, and civil society organizations to advance gender diversity in ICT standardization. So by working together, these stakeholders can share best practices, exchange knowledge, and jointly develop strategies to increase women participation. It is important to continue addressing these barriers and working towards creating equal opportunities and a supportive environment that encourage more women to pursue and succeed in ICT and standardization fields. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Raquel. Some very important statistics you've given there. And indeed, we know that more efforts are coming up in the future. And it's also encouraging. I know quite a few females who have been accepted on the high-level forum of the standardization group as well, which is good, who are particularly active. I'm loving these comments in the chats, please, and just keep coming. And they're full of content. I can't believe some of your bios. So thank you so much. Please, let's get them in from every single one of you. I'm going to pass now the floor to Maitan. Maitan, the floor is you, Secretary General of SBS. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Silvana. I hope now you can see the slides that I just shared. So indeed, I'm the Secretary General of Small Business Standards. I will in a minute explain you a bit more what Small Business Standards is, since some of you might not be familiar with the organization. But apart from that, I have also been working in SEN and Senelec directly for more than 11 years on some industry associations. So let's say that I have a bit of experience in standardization, and what I wanted to do today is to share with you a bit more my experience regarding our work defending the interest of SMEs in standardization, because I think it might also be relevant for you to get also some ideas of some things can be done in order to do the same regarding more women and gender consideration in standardization. So regarding, if I come back to small business standards and who we are, I think I would like to start by saying also a little bit about the legal framework. So in Europe, you know that we have, or you might know, we have actually a regulation 1025/2012 that provides the legal framework of European standardization, and actually inclusiveness is a key principle of this regulation. Maybe it's not explicit about gender, but as one of the principles is to try to encourage the participations of those stakeholders that are normally not so much involved in standardization, one of them being SMEs. So this is basically the main background for SBS, Small Business Standards, that was created as a result of the regulation, and that, as you can see, has as objectives to try to increase awareness of SMEs on the importance of standardization, encourage and support them to participate and actually to represent their interest as well in European and international standardization. Just something to mention, our focus are small businesses. And we are not only focusing on ICT, but of course we have many SMEs that are working in the ICT area, so it's also one of the sectors we cover. Regarding our activities, I just wanted to share this with you because, as I said, our aim is basically to encourage the representation of SMEs as one of the less represented stakeholders in standardization. We have, of course, awareness raising, and for me, and I think, Silvana, you made a very good comment, this should start at an early age, as early as we can, but awareness is for sure the starting point in order to encourage further consideration of gender issues in standardization, and also to have more women in ICT standardization and standardization in general. I think it's also important to work at the policy level. And what you will see in the slide is more our work at technical level. But I think policy level is also important because, for example, within SBS, we are involved in the policy group of the standards bodies, are the ones setting the policy for participation. And I think it's also important to work from that angle as well. So regarding the technical level, there are different things we do. This is something I wanted to share with you. For example, in CEN, CENELEC, ISO and IC, there is a common guide that gives basically guidelines to standard drafters on how to consider SME needs in standardization. I think this is a very good starting point for those that are involved in standardization in order to do that. And within SBS, we have actually developed a test in order to do the same and to help this process in a structured way. So tools are important. And of course, also a big part of what we do is actually to nominate experts. So we nominate specific experts representing SME interest in standardization. So this year we have 71 SME experts. 10 of which are women, so it's 14%. So looking at the statistics that Silvana showed, I think Stand ICT and SBS, we are around the same. And actually in the ICT area is a bit higher. It is important to have experts, but we face the difficulty that most of the applications we receive are still male. So we receive for 2023, 88 applications from only 11 were from women. And another thing of what we do, and Silvana mentioned it, we are participating also in projects. One of them is Stand for You, but Olga will talk about it a bit later. And we are also involved in another project that is that just started, Block Stand, and actually the purpose of this project is also to encourage participation of European experts in blockchain standardization. What is interesting, and I would like really to encourage all the women that have the technical knowledge and that are with us today to apply. There are possibilities like in Stand ICT to apply and get funded to participate in standardization. Within SBS, we have just launched our call that we launch every year to have SME experts. So the person has to have an SME background, a strong SME background, and is open to all areas, ICT as well. And of course, we encourage women to apply. And also within Blockstand, there will be a call launch in July. It's not yet published, but there is the possibility to express interest to apply for the call already now. So regarding my perspective, I think I'm a positive person. I think things are improving. Within SBS, you also have seen that even though we advance little by little, but we are advancing. And for 2022, we had 10% of women as experts. In 2023, we have 14. So the number is increasing. I think there are positive signs. You might be aware of the UNEC Declaration on Gender Responsive Standards. There are more than 80 standard organizations that have signed the declaration, also ISO, IC, ITU, SENS and ELEC. And there are also guidance that is available, which I think is essential as well for a standard drafter to know how to consider these aspects. And I think another encouraging thing that I have seen is, for the first time since I'm involved in standardization, I have seen in the annual Union Work Program of the Commission for this year, this is basically the program that indicates areas where the Commission is going to issue a standardization request, so request to develop standards in support of policy and legislation, when there is a specific mentioning of gender responsive standards. And the fact that they want to work on having anthropometric references that are representative of the whole European population, not only the male population, and that harmonized standards can be revised, taking into account also women needs. So from my perspective, there are advancements, quite a lot, I would say, slowly, but I think we are in the good way. And I just wanted to highlight, to end, just some actions from the side of SBS that we also intend to take in this area. So, as I said, for me, the key issue as well is awareness raising, also among women, of the importance to get involved in standardization. So in this context, we are launching an initiative this year that is called Meeting Standards. It's aimed specifically to SMEs to try to raise their awareness about the importance of standardization, why it's important for them to get involved. And in this framework, we also try to put in the spotlight some of our female experts in standardization coming from SMEs, because we are convinced that seeing role models is something that is essential. Second point is, I think training is important. It was mentioned before, and we also intend to do this with our experts. We want to include in the training of our experts, because we nominate experts, but we also provide them support and training, the issue of gender responsive standards, so that all of them are aware of the need to take into account these aspects, because they also help further acceptance of standards in general. And finally, monitoring progress. I think this is essential. We are starting to do that within SBS, and I think is something that is important in the standards bodies in all aspects, in order to see if the approach we are following is working and we can attract more women. And I think with this, Silvana, I will end.
Lovely.
And
Brilliant,
we can go to the next
Maitan.
speaker.
Very nice initiative you have on the 14th to the 21st. So we'll have a look at that in greater detail. Yeah, lots going on indeed. Let's give a round of applause remotely for Maitan and Raquel previously. Well done. Keep going on these chats. And in fact, you remember these open calls that are coming out. I can see the expertise from many of you reading here. Do take advantage of these open calls. If you don't come in this one, there are another 8 to follow, okay? And in fact, indeed, thank you, Maitan, for mentioning the two new initiatives specifically related to blockchain, DLT, which is Blockstand and C-Blocks. Over to you, Viveka, a SAN ICT fellow. We'd love to hear from you now.
Thank you so much, Silvana. And I'm going to start to share my screen, I hope.
Yes, that's coming through now, Viveka. We've got you. You're on.
Can you, let's see here, right? You see my screen, you see my presentation. Perfect. Okay, so thank you for having me today. Just quickly, as Silvana said, I actually work as a lawyer. I'm an attorney, and I have been working as an attorney in England and Wales, Norway, and now, of course, in Sweden. I am active in, let's see if this works. There we go. I am actually active when it comes to standardization work within ISO IEC, as you have heard, is a very close fellow to what we are discussing today. And specifically, I work within the SC42, which is the committee that works with artificial intelligence. And more precisely, I work in work group 3, which is the work group for ethics and trustworthiness. So that's where I am. And shortly, as you may know, of course, you have this strong collaboration between ISO and IEC, and they are covering together a broad range of various topics. And within the Joint Technical Committee 1, you have the information technology, you have the committees about artificial intelligence, security, cloud, IoT, and governance, amongst others. And more specifically, what do I do? What is my contribution in this? Yes, I work as a project editor in SC42, and I will give you a brief outline of the projects I have been working in and the projects I am working in today. Just quickly giving you a brief about what I have been doing the last 4 years, from 19 to 2022. And this is where the whole emergence of adding ethics into the standardization work commenced back in 2019. And I became the project editor of this project in 2020. And what this is really adding a sort of, you could almost say, a non-technical ethical perspective into the ethical and technical perspective of AI system and applications. So you get both the ethics and the technical perspective on the topic, and actually adding that into the traditional standardization work. So that's what this has been done. And also what is going on then is that you have this ethical and societal layer getting into and introduced in this publication. The work is an overview work, and it was published last year. It's a technical report, and it gives an overview of ethical and societal concerns. So it is important to remember that this project does not introduce any societal or ethical value systems, although it does address the importance of the particular social, economic, physical context of development, implementation, audience and use of AI systems and applications, but it does not give any societal or ethical value systems. That's important to remember. The overview as such in this published document is giving practices for building and using ethical and socially acceptable AI. And it also gives an overview of an organization's management process. And why is this important? Well, of course, it does help and give stakeholders various considerations when they want to build and use ethical and socially acceptable AI. So this is how this notion of ethics was introduced within SC42. And as you see, it started as an overview project, a technical report, trying to add that non-technical ethical perspective into a very technical notion such as standardization. So during this project, actually already in 2019, the experts did identify a further need to dig a bit deeper, to have in the pipeline a more low-level work. And remember, as a project editor, my main task is to catch all the reflections, all the discussions that are going on amongst the experts. So the idea emerged already in 2019, but then, of course, the experts wanted to naturally finalize the overview work on ethics that was ongoing in SC42. And as I said, we published the technical report in 2022. And now we have we are working, and we in the pipeline, we then have suggested a new product within SE42, a continuation of the ongoing ethical AI work. And what is suggested is to have a more low-level document giving more precise guidance on addressing societal concerns and ethical considerations. And as I stated and emphasized, remember, there are no societal or ethical value systems being introduced in this work. It is an aid for the stakeholders that develop or use or generate AI systems and applications. So what's the beauty with this product, suggested product? Well, it's suggested to either be technical specification or a standard, and as such, it has more of a normative capacity. Remember, this is just a suggestion. We will find out whether there will be a balloting, and the balloting will take place, or whether that will actually end up in this project embarking during the autumn. If not, we will continue the process just as much to try to get it going for 2024 instead. But it's really there, and it has been a great process, and it's heavily supported. So that's what we are doing. And as I said before, it's a hands-on approach. It's supposed to be a tangible product. It's supposed to really give specific guidance. So that's a follow-up and continuation of the ethical work. And just quickly, why do I do this? I'm a lawyer, so I'm not a civil engineer or data scientist or anything. Well, my interest and my motivation to work with standardization is just to discover, basically, and to realize that law and regulation policies, it's so well connected with standardization. They are so connected. And as you can see about the emerging regulatory frameworks that are being suggested, this will continue and be even further closer. So for me, it's a very natural process to work with standardization. It's going to be very important in my work to be very familiarized with the standardization work in various contexts. So this is something that I started with in 2019, and I will definitely continue in my career to work with standardization. I believe it's very important to get the right aspects from a legal perspective as well, since you get a lot of the definitions and a lot of the answers by studying standardization. So that's my own take on why I'm doing this. Quickly, we will discuss it together later on, but when it comes to challenging obstacles to be a woman with standardization, I have to admit I have only a positive experience from it. It's been a very good experience. I haven't had any true challenges as a woman to work with standardization. But what I see is what is very important, and you can get the gender perspective there as well, is of course to get the diversity going. You need to have an interdisciplinary approach when you work with this. In particular, I think when you work with an issue such as societal concerns and ethics, which is vitally important in the application of technology, you need to have the ideas and the input from all domains, all professions, and I would say also from all genders. So that's where I think the gender perspective is very important. And of course, I want to contribute as a woman in this to motivate and to introduce more women into this very exciting work, because I do believe that the gender representation is vital. And I just want to quickly, it has been talked about before, the various gender guidelines. I just want to quickly highlight a very good thing with the platform that I work with, namely ISO and IEC codes, that platform and their code of conduct. And I think it's very comforting for women to understand that in this framework, be it ISO or IEC or SENS and ELEC or other sort of areas or institutions, there is very set norms of how you behave when you work. And that can be quite good to know that you have to behave ethically when you work with standardization, and you need to have a consensus approach. If there are, if there are any sort of conflicts, they will be solved, you will have a very nice way of working together. And I just wanted to stress that it's a good environment to be in, and the whole essence of it, that we as project editors, we want all voices to be heard. That's my assignment. That's my mission and my task. And I just wanted to stress that for women being interested in standardization, how well prepared the institutions are to actually see to that interest and to that need. So what does a woman in standard need? Well, of course, it needs a good playing field to get her voice heard. And I do believe that when we get more women into standardization, there will be a good woman-to-woman effect. And I've seen it also with women from developing countries, how important that has been, actually. So this is what we work with. It's very, very important. And remember, it's also about to understand women's presence and to ensure we have women's presence. Because of course, as with diversity and the importance that standards have in various areas, not the least the legal area, the regulatory area, it's one of the main driving forces, I believe, to make that happen. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, Viveka. That was really taken from the heart. It really was. And I was going to say, I hope you're getting your application readily finalized for the 10th of July on your ethics overview. And I'm sure there are lots of projects who funded under Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe and DEP, which have a specific element of ethics that's been introduced more thoroughly, clearly in the latest projects that could do with your help and advice and insights, Viveka. Yes, and the slides will be available after the presentation. Over now to Ivana. Ivana, the floor is yours. Thank you. Your slides are coming through now. We can see, Ivana, so you're ready to go.
Thank you for nice words. I will use this opportunity to share some thoughts on importance of use of standards, as well as standardization and related activities for a specific target group, Eastern European women in top management positions. And I would like to provide some empirical evidence on how standards might be important to them. So basically, gender diversity, particularly in leadership position, impact business. There are plenty of studies that confirm that positively impact business productivity, competitiveness, economic growth. However, according to McKinsey studies, women potential in the context of economy in Central and Eastern European countries is growing. According to International Labour Organization study, in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, about 20% of all enterprises have a top management female. It's larger than a global average. However, the other problems of gender diversity in region are occupational segregation, in meaning that we have a high concentration on women in certain profession or in certain sectors, especially those with lower salaries. However, barriers to female leadership still persist. Just one example, 60% of college graduates in Central and Eastern European countries are female, but only 37% of all managers are women. So what we need to do, we need to challenge the gender stereotypes. In order to see what's going on, we conducted a survey and published it in 2020. It is It is a survey on the role of standards in overcoming gender prejudice, and we provide some empirical evidence on that. The study is written by Cesare Rillo, Professor Henry Vries, and me, and it is based on World Bank data on enterprise survey and sample on 4,111 companies coming from 25 Central and Eastern European countries. So basically, this study was focused on management system standards. So management system standards in area of quality management, environmental management, and information security, and others. And often adoption of those standards is followed by third-party audits and consequently by certification. In that context, certification bodies verify the correct application of standards, and certificates, application of standards, and consequently certificates have a substantial signaling effects, in the meaning that certification is signaling that company meets requirement of particular standards and that provide a confidence. That might be very interesting in situation that we have female company leadership that may have an issue. She may have to prove herself more than man in the same position. In that context, our result, overly simplified, are the next. So we find out that companies run by women are not more likely to be certified. Furthermore, we find out that women-run companies are not more likely to export more than male-managed company. However, we find out if a company led by a woman is certified, it should be more likely to export than certified firms that are managed by men. This is only an illustration that firms managed by women benefit more from certification to management system standards, in other words, of use of standards, than firms managed by men. However, our general conclusion might be standards can help women to do business better. So what is our task? Our task is to bring standardization closer to women leaders, to women researchers, to women entrepreneurs. However, raising awareness of economical and social effects of standardization is still something that at my humble opinion, is missing. What we really need is more training and education on standardization for future women leaders, women researchers, women entrepreneurs. What I would like to say, and I would like to share with you, is that bringing standardization closer to future women leaders is through education and support. In HS Booster project, we support research project, and we invited you to join us in supporting, enriching trainings and education, but as well as a support, as expert support to researchers, to women future leaders and women researchers in their journey to standardization. On the other side, we have a training academy to bring standardization closer to researchers, furthermore to women researchers. And I would like to share this call, and I would like to invite you to join us as expert in HS Booster project and HS Booster Training Academy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivana. Super, and some interesting statistics on the Eastern countries you were saying, and you have firsthand experience of that, of course. I'd like to pass the floor now to Judith, our cybersecurity specialist. The floor is yours, Judith. We can see your slides.
Is it
Are you seeing the presenter mode? Or are you seeing the?
You need to press the display that we can see it in presenter mode. We're seeing both slides at the moment.
Okay. Let me try something else.
Okay.
Just a second. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Just to try.
Whilst Judith is getting that open, I can see it's great. Even though we're not meeting physically, I'm seeing in the chat that you're already having exchanges with each other for follow-up synergies with each other. And I love to see that. So this is where Zoom is at its best, I suppose.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
We can't yet, Judith, no?
No? Sorry.
Judith, should we share them on your behalf? Should we do that?
No, it's okay.
No? Okay. It's coming in now.
Okay, I'm
Coming
sorry.
in now.
Just a sec. Now it should work.
Yes, that's perfect. Okay, the floor is yours, Judith.
Okay,
That's
sorry
great.
about the delay.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, so
Judith, you've gone mute on us?
no, sorry. Okay,
No?
so
Yeah.
thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today about something that's been a central part of my career path for the past 20 years ago, cybersecurity standardization. And I just hope that my experiences can be an inspiration for others who are starting out as experts. I'm sorry, I'm just not so used to using Zoom. And now,
Not to worry, Judith. If you want us to take it over, then we're happy to do that.
okay, no. I could go to the next slide.
Yes,
Yep.
that's the
There we
one. It's coming through now. Perfect.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry again.
No worries.
So this is just presenting a summary of my CV. I'm not going to use time on the slide. It's just background. And just to highlight, I am a global cybersecurity specialist working in ABB in the Process Automation Energy Industries Division. I also teach a course at the University of Oslo each fall in cybersecurity for industrial automation because I think it's important to interact with the students. And as I've been active in cybersecurity standardization for over 20 years, I just thought I would like to talk a little bit about my journey in this area. There we go. So after leaving university, I started out as a systems engineer using mathematics to calculate capacities, performance, and reliability of telecom systems before moving to the security topics. And I did my PhD while I worked in research and development at Telenor and while raising 2 children. And while I was at Telenor, I got involved in standardization as I saw the need to improve the security of the telecom standards, and I was eager to contribute. And through that, I joined ETSI in 2001, and in 2003, I was appointed chair of the ETSI TISPAN Working Group 7 Security. And that was an exciting time because back then there were no smartphones and the internet was just gaining popularity. And there was a push to create a common IP-based core for the telecom services. So we were cooperating with 3GPP to write the standards to enable the evolution towards this common IP-based core for both fixed and mobile networks. And I admit it was daunting at times to be co-chairing a group of over 70 cybersecurity experts from all over the world. But the only thing I can say is you just have to get out there and take the plunge. In 2010, I moved on and joined ABB with the opportunity to apply my security expertise in a new domain for industrial automation and control systems, focusing on energy systems and smart manufacturing. And after I joined ABB, I became active in standardization again. One thing leads to another. So I joined the National Committee NK65 and CENELEC TC65X. And because of my experiences with ETSI, I was positioned to help the industry solve issues we had at European level with the industrial requirements for wireless communication. And because of this, I was then appointed deputy of a working group for wireless industrial communications in TC65X. And then I also became chair of the ETSI ERM TG41 for wireless industrial applications, where we developed a harmonized standard for wireless industrial applications in the 5.8 gigahertz band. Yes?
Judith, I think you need to click on to the slide so we can move on your timeline, perhaps.
Sorry.
That's in, perfect.
Okay. And in 2018, I was appointed chair of CENELEC T65X. And so I've been active in international standardization since 2003 and since I joined ABB. I'm currently chairing T65X and co-convener of Working Group 3 Cybersecurity. And in this role as chair of CENELEC T65X, I'm active in CENELEC JTC 13 Working Group 8 and Working Group 9 concerning the drafting of the harmonized standards for conformance to the European cybersecurity regulations for products. So being chair of different standards committees for most of my career, I'm often the only woman in the room, but usually there are one or two other women amongst the 20 men. So yes, there is a gap, but I have never seen this as an issue. And my appointments and achievements have been based on my expertise and my enthusiasm for the work. And the colleagues in the technical committees and the standards development organizations have always been supportive. So on my next slides, if there's time, I'll just talk a little bit about what we're doing in cybersecurity standardization and how it's handled at EU level. So just to establish the setting with CENELEC TC65X. The scope is European level aspects of standardization for systems and elements used in industrial process measurement, control, and automation. And we coordinate standardization activities which affect integration of components and functions into such systems, including safety and security aspects. And we have a very helpful program manager from CMC, Nushin, who is also a woman. And the EN versions of the IEC standards in the scope of the committee are widely used by manufacturers, by designers, integrators, and builders of automation installations, by users and operators, and in particular producers of goods, and of course by the regulators and auditors who wish to ensure compliance to requirements. And just to focus in on cybersecurity. In the scope of our committee, we have the EN-IEC 62443 series of cybersecurity standards for operational technologies. And the aim is to give a systematic approach to the cybersecurity based on understanding of the threats and risks. And today, the series is already applied across a range of sectors, including utility grids and systems, hydropower facilities, offshore wind, railway shipping and aviation, building automation and control, and industrial automation and industrial Internet of Things. And I don't want to go into detail. I just want to highlight the fact that the series is widely used today and that I'm contributing to the standardization of the different parts of the series. And I also use these standards in my daily work as a cybersecurity specialist. Our customers require that we conform to these standards. Our products and solutions are developed with conformance in mind, And we even certify products and solutions to the series of standards. And in Senelec TC65X Working Group 3, recently we performed a mapping of the different parts of the series to the essential requirements of the draft EU Cyber Resilience Act. And as shown in this graphical representation, the results are quite promising, and it shows the different parts of the series of the framework cover and address the requirements specified, the essential requirements specified in the draft Cyber Resilience Act. So it's deemed as a firm basis for the development of the CRA-related harmonized standards, even though some modifications may be necessary. So sorry about the issues I had. I'm more used to using Teams. And yes, there's gender gaps, but it's still possible to be active and make a difference. And this is just from the point of view of an expert who has been working in standardization for over 20 years. And I just hope to inspire more women to get involved in these standardization activities. Thank you.
Judy, thank you very much. So, I mean, you've been doing this for years. You can see that your timeline was really impressive. I liked how you said, you know, I don't have an issue at all with, you know, I'm the chair, the person active is also a female, although there are 20 men in the room. And, you know, I don't want this webinar, in fact, to come across as, you know, everyone needs to be a woman. Men are just as important as women, of course they are. And I think what's interesting is when we read perhaps latest articles, what I tend to read is that women aren't trying to become men on how they behave, but the way women work and think is now absolutely fine. So it's important to say that the mindset women have doesn't mean that we want to say that we need to become like males to fill roles that are predominantly covered by men. So that's that our way of thinking is just as good. So it would be nice maybe to see this figure going up. I think, Judith, you know, in your, without you saying, well, there's a, you know, 40 to 60% of distribution in the working groups. But, you know, hats off to you for taking this forward, also, you know, raising a family like many people. Thank you, Judith. Next up, I don't know, Judith, do you want to comment to that? I'm not even, no,
just thank you. Thanks again.
Next up is Olga from Fraunhofer, and you represent, Olga, today the Stand for EU project, which is great. So you can say a few words about that. Over to you, Olga. We can see your slides. You're ready to go.
Thank you very much. So yes, I agree. Well, thank you for having me today also in this webinar. And I see that I'm not alone in the men domain. So it's nice to see that. Okay. What I will be presenting today. So I would like to share with you actually my insights from the practitioner side. So I'm a researcher at Fraunhofer Institute, and I would like to show you how was my way and what I've done in the project, give you an overview of the topic that I'm working on in the standardization, give the overview of some projects, perhaps insights, how I started, and going on to the project interoperability or Stand for EU, for example, that I'm actively involved at the moment, give you insights on that, on what we are working there. And perhaps at the end, go to this question, well, is the standardization really a men's domain? And give you perhaps some insights how I get help or where I get help also in my career. Okay, to the background, research associate at Fraunhofer Institute for Manufacturing, Engineering and Automation at IPA. So this is one of more than 74 institutes of Fraunhofer, which is situated in Stuttgart in Germany. And well, I'm a lead of the group focusing on interoperability for digital production. It means that we have a kind of a center for developing digital tools for production, and especially the question of what is smart manufacturing, industry 4.0, industrial IoT. So these are the questions that I was working on, developing solutions for industry. So I'm pretty much involved in the standardization. I started my standardization career, let me just name it like this, 8 years ago. And actually, I was involved because my colleague was going in a retirement, and he said, "Well, can you help me to take over some of the groups that he was leading?" And you can see also on the left side that my involvement is pretty much well, on national level, international, and also European level. So I'm covering several standardization groups where I'm very active member, and going on through the topics like Internet of Things, digital twin at the national level, also mirroring from ISO ISC, GTC1, SC41, especially I'm working in the group 6 for digital twin, also looking for technologies for, industry and industrial IoT. And a bunch of work is focusing on developing of standards in the smart manufacturing area, like smart manufacturing framework in ICT 65, working group 23, or you can also see this joint working group of ISO ISC 21, which is focusing on smart manufacturing reference models, developing architectures for industrial solutions, and so on. Also, I'm a representative or represent Germany at Centennial at the Coordination Group on Smart Manufacturing at the European level. And there is some interesting work perhaps that I'm doing at the sites in Germany and DKI, VDI, also working with standards like system aspects and automation, a member of expert panel who is looking at the gaps in standardization. Also, I'm a convener of standardization roadmap industry 4.0, also working with, I think this is about something about 60 men in my group, and like 2 women, so very few women in it. So I think it is because it is very technical domain, and so mostly men involved. But I'm very convenient with that, being a convener there. So just share a very positive experience on that. We have very hard time at the moment, but I'm not sure that it's because of the gender. So I think that it was like a learning curve at the moment, at the beginning. So yes, development, like looking at the gaps in standardization. You can also see on the right side those German standardization roadmaps that we bring each 2 years for researchers, for politics, so for all representatives, also standardization bodies, just to trigger some standards in that area. Also, I'm a member of Expert Council for Artificial Intelligence, also looking gaps there in this domain. At the current moment, I'm very active in Industrial Digital Twin Association and their development standards for digital twin in industrial 4.0 field. And we are developing about 30 standardized submodels. These are kind of specifications that are focusing specifically on the interoperability field. What Silvana at the beginning mentioned, this semantic interoperability. So this is specifically filled on that, and we are addressing this interoperability in the whole collaborative value chain, value network in industry 4.0. So very interesting work here, and also I see some women there, but mostly also men at the moment. But we are also working with industrial companies who deliver use cases to us, and I think that this is a growing number of women also there. So it's very nice to work and to have experience also in developing standards in such a kind of a group. So I was also leading some tasks of standardization for a couple of years, I think since 2015. till the last year, I was in some projects like Reform Quality, Connected Factories, where we have this monster projects, you know, about the large ecosystems, platforms, large-scale pilots also involved. And we had, like, I was leading the standardization task, so it means that I was talking to everybody, you know, from one side to the project pilots, and from the other side, also bringing those ideas out of the project to standardization bodies, as the standards, developing our standards was one of the pillars or one of the demands from European Commission for that. These are Horizon 2020 projects. And yes, we were developing robust solutions there, like analyzing 200 standards together with the whole group. At the moment, I'm working in some other project site, so not developing standards, but looking how to collect those obstacles that prevent developers or others from, you know, in some different phases of development life cycle, and to develop some remedies on that. So such obstacles could be, for example, lack of resources and funding for the project, or lack of time, lack of experience, lack of quality of the standards. So these are such obstacles that we are looking in Stand4You project, and looking at, you know, very particular answers from the projects, collecting those feedbacks through the online platform, like low motivation, what is the complexity of scope? So somebody is complaining, well, there is a complexity of processes on the side of ISO, ISC, whatever. So we are collecting all that information and putting that on the Stand4You interface. This is a web portal where a project can log in and also give their impression there, give their feedback there. And we are trying to develop remedies on those. And at the end, so my last slide. So on the positive experience, actually being a woman in standardization, I can only encourage women who are participating now, or perhaps hearing this webinar later on, to participate. And I would like to say that, well, there is some help. There is some help provided. You heard today also from the sides of standardization bodies and from other organizations, but in particular in Fraunhofer, for example, we have a kind of a help through the networking. So we have a network of all Fraunhofers together, and we know who is doing what. We have 530 active researchers who are involved in standardization. And we have a kind of a tool that we use to understand, well, where is the involvement of people and how I can network with them and exchange with them on specific, questions. So this is where I get, for example, my help also inside my organization. I'm very proud and thankful also for them that they've done that. Thank you very much. And back to you, Silvana.
Thank you very much, Olga. That were insightful points there. If you want to write anything about a call to action for any of the participants that they can do for the Stand4EU project, Olga, then do feel free to add anything into the chat. We have shared the URL for the project, but if there's anything specific you'd like to ask the participants, do take advantage of this channel and write things in the chat if you'd like to. Shanti's written in the chat that is there any conference on this topic, but Shanti, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Maybe you could be specific whilst I and ask the question to one of the panelists again whilst I pass the floor to Emilia, so we can get back to you directly on that. That would be wonderful. So last up, Emilia Tanta. Emilia has been an active member of a fellow for Stan ICT. We're extremely grateful of her continued expertise and insights that she's given to the project. And she's the Chief Data AI Officer at Black Swan. And I'm going to pass the floor to you directly. Emilia, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Silvana. So I will try to be quick because I know I'm at the end and I'm in between you and lunch. So I will try to be quick also to allow you to ask some questions if you have some. So what I would share, it's a journey in standardization for an SME and focused on R&D. Our journey Just passing to the next slide. We started, so we spinned off. I'm a researcher by background. I did 15 years in academia and applied research. We spinned off from the University of Luxembourg as the second spin-off of the University of Luxembourg with a focus on artificial intelligence. And then I focused my standardization effort when standardization arrived in 2007 in activities in standardization, focusing only on artificial intelligence at international level, European and national level. Our objective as a company, why standardization is important to us, is to develop and deploy responsible AI for anomaly detection. After a while, I understood that the startup world either goes for scaling or you keep a reasonable size. And for me, the equilibrium was found by keeping a reasonable size and focusing on the societal dimension. And that societal dimension is as witnessed when we started. There was no legislation, there was nothing in general data protection regulation and so on, and neither on AI. So we focused in supporting the European Commission, building the responsible AI approach and trustworthy AI approach. And then we realized through the process that standards are at the bottom line, the technical specifications which support any legislative framework. And then we realized also that for SMEs, being conformant to standards is a really huge cost. So to reduce our own cost as SME and support other SMEs in doing so, I focused my standardization efforts on creating AI conformity assessment frameworks, which come in time for SMEs to support legislation, have clear specification, and they are easy to use. So first of all, I started my engagement just for the ones which want to engage in standardization. Maybe they are not there yet. I started my engagement at the national level. This is the usual path to do. In Luxembourg, we have the ILNAS, the National Mirror Committee. And then I evolved to the international level. And when the time came in 2020 and European efforts appeared, I joined the focus group on AI 2020, 2021, and then a joint technical committee for proper joint technical committee was created in June 2021. So these are the 3 layers that we cover. We need to cover the national level because this is the entry point. And then you need to focus either at the European level or the international level. For us, our strategy was to select only 3 to 4 relevant standardization initiatives and actively engage, because this can be quite time consuming. With time, and without realizing it, by getting engaged with that, I achieved in 2021 the trophy of National Delegate on Normalization at the national level. So for all efforts in standardization for all domains, I was awarded this trophy by ILNAS and ANEC. It was unexpected because I didn't realize I engaged that much as compared with the peers which were in standardization for many years. So then I also had to establish a good equilibrium between engagement in standardization, which is really passion and it's really interesting, and running my own business. I'm founder and I'm running as Chief Data and AI Officer. So I needed to find an equilibrium. For an SME, that's not that obvious, but with the support of SPS, and this is where I found about small business standard support, I managed to find the important initiatives and get training on how to engage wisely. I achieved, again, from the need of having conformity assessment clear structure, I achieved the role of convener. I was the first convener for an operational working group in Sensenlec Joint Technical Committee 21, because that didn't exist, and I asked to be created to do the work on analyzing for a technical report the AI conformity assessment. So I'm currently the editor of the technical report on AI conformity assessment. We will be soon closing that process. If you would like to engage, please do so. We'll be more than happy to support you. I was previously convener of the focus group ad hoc on AI conformity assessment. That didn't have a formal role, it was focus group only. And I support a little bit as expert contributor, the EU Observatory of ICT Standards that Silvana already mentioned. That was, I think, in 2021. With time and because of the implication, I was also elected as head of delegation, president of the National Mirror Committee on AI. We have around 50 experts, and I'm representing when delegation is represented European or international level, I'm the head of delegation for Luxembourg. That happened organically. It's not something that I planned, but just to let you know what are perspectives that you can achieve. You should not embrace all perspectives. You need, again, to choose wisely. So how I found my vectors of support, because that takes time, so that takes resources also. In Luxembourg, we have national support as the participation in standardization is free of charge. That was the entry point. And then for Stand ICT, I had individual expert grants, so I could allocate a little bit more time. And then when we decided to remain as SME, we achieved the support, and we are really grateful for that, specific support as SME expert in standardization. So these are my support layers. It takes time, so you need to find the resources to cover also that. What I would give as key takeaways from my experience is just my own perspective. You need to choose the focus area. Of course, you can do everything, but that all takes time. And standardization requires continuous support, as opposed to research. When you have a result and you pass through peer review and you publish it, in standardization, even if the contribution is accepted at one point, till the publication is not closed, that contribution can be completely removed. It happened to me once for a use case. I had to restart the process 1 year after because the contribution didn't have continuous support or has been removed. I had to restart the process. Then the standards, they have a local, a European, and international dimension. The international dimension, of course, that's the most important because that opens all markets. But in Europe, for example, for the Artificial Intelligence Act, there is a request which goes to the European Standardization Organization. So what it impacts, for example, if you are a small, medium enterprise active only on Europe, what impacts you directly is the European standardization, because there is an agreement between the European Commission, European Council, and the European Standardization Organization, CENELEC and ETSI, that the European standardization organizations will provide the standards used in Europe. Of course, there is then another agreement between CEN and ISO, CENELEC and IEC, the Vienna and Frankfurt agreements, that we adopt international standards, but doesn't mean that all international standards will be adopted as such. So if you are active only in the European market, you would be interested to know what happens at the European level, European SDO. So just to find your own equilibrium, where to invest more according to your business. So this will be my key takeaways, and I would like to leave the floor for any questions because I know time is quite limited. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emilia. That was really insightful, but more so from a learning point of view. That really was nice that you took the perspective of how your trajectory has evolved over the years. And I think it really is, and I put this in the chat, you know, as an ambassador and advocate of someone so involved in this and basically saying, you know, from going from nothing and walking blindly, perhaps, I know you didn't say that, but then having the tools to support you, it's just brilliant for others to pick this up on. It really is. So I have one question I'd like to pick up on. And by the way, I thank you, Panos, also for your comments in the chat on the working group on digital media, metadata, IPR, ontologies and AI. And those of you who are interested, he's saying please to join this committee, which is extremely important. So the question I wanted to ask, and please feel free or hands up or whoever wants to start from our panelists, is what other initiatives or best practices have you encountered that have effectively promoted the participation of women in standards? Obviously, you know, the ones we've heard from here goes without saying, hopefully. And how do you think these successful approaches can be scaled up or replicated? So anything that we've not mentioned before that you'd like to state here, who would like to take that first of all? Any takers? Emilia, over to you. Thank you.
I think I would go for a little bit broader scope, which is the inclusiveness in general. we have, of course, the gender diversity, but what we could observe, I'm coming from a really, let's say, not that represented background. I come from research, which is not that widely represented. The standardization comes from industry, usually. And I come from a small company and as a woman. So there are 3 layers. And I observe that when intervening in standardization, each of these roles is not widely represented. For example, researchers, they do not participate when a work program is created, although it is really important to be there and not only provide scientific contribution. Scientific contribution will not pass if you are not, for example, you are a woman researcher, you would like to contribute, but if you are not participating in the work program decision, then your item will not be included, so you can't achieve easily consensus. What can support, I think, the initiative that Maitane mentioned, the inclusiveness initiative, having guidelines where inclusiveness is supported. For example, that we check, we assess, as it was, I think, Ivana which mentioned, let's assess where do we stand, how many women, Silvana, you also mentioned it, how many women are represented, how many, I don't know, small companies, or how many researchers, or how many different other consumers, and so on. How many of them they really are, and what are the frames? And I really like, this is not my role because we had Olga which mentioned that it stands for you, but I think the idea behind that project could be a real support to analyze where we stand, what are the bottlenecks, and propose solutions. And I think one of the bottlenecks is, of course, afterwards, that we reach consensus that they are adopted these measures, because measures exist. Maitane already proposed some, but adoption of those in practice, we are proposing it, I think, since 2 years. And everybody says yes, but when we need to apply it, nobody does operationally anything about it. Yeah. Just my thoughts.
Very good, Emilia. I'm going to pick up also before passing the floor to Viveka, who has her hands up. Thank you, Monica, who states from her observation, mentorship by experience standardizers is important, male or female. Obviously, I agree. Helping to navigate the complex landscape. And it is, the hand-holding, let's not take that, let's not underestimate that shouldn't happen. And in fact, it should, and we should become better at doing the hand-holding to make sure we can navigate through this. And from an SME point of view, Emilia, people, lack of resources, time, money, someone who's giving you a heads up and a push behind, that's what you want all the time. Viveka, over to you.
Thank you. I just really want to support what Emilia is saying, the importance to emphasize the possibility of networking as well in these areas. That is so important, because then you create this ability of continuity. And that is also important. I think that really appeals to women. And it also appeals an environment where people feel secure to participate. So that is my take. And that really sort of emphasizes the things that Emilia said, how important that is to create that kind of environment. Because that gives the opportunity to sort of in a long-term perspective as well to participate.
Thank you, Viveka. We're coming up to the hour. We have a minute more. Can I open the floor to our wonderful panelists? First of all, before we finish, can we have a clap from everybody to all of our esteemed speakers? You were brilliant. So much energy from all of you, personal experience. I'd like to also give a clap to all of the participants who have actually increased from the beginning of the webinar to now. You sometimes have people dropping off, and we haven't had anyone drop off. And we've had we've had a flurry of comments in the chat, which is wonderful, which we'll collect. Anyone would like to say some inspiring words before we close? If not, I would just like to thank you all so much for being on. You've been a real beacon of light and guidance for all of those and all of us who, are trying our best to make a little dent and seeing lots of women coming into this sphere. I wish you a wonderful wonderful summer holidays for those going off, and some relaxing days with family, friends, and whoever else. Do take care. We'll be in touch. And thank you so much once again. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.